Hey, Stacey David here with Tales of a Gearhead podcast. This podcast is about all things automotive from any time, any place, and beyond. All right, let's get to it. All right, today I have a special guest here with me today. I've got Tim Tullo, a buddy of mine from Fatman Fabrications. Now, if you haven't heard of Fatman Fabrications, well, you haven't been around a hot rod world very much, because they've been around since '85. And of course, I don't think Tim was working there in '85, but he's been there a long time, and now he's the current owner. So we're going to talk about cars, we're going to talk about fabrication, we're going to talk about chassis, frame, suspension, who knows what. So Tim, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks, Stacey. Great to be here.
Okay, how did you get into cars? Were you a car guy growing up, or what did you do?
Yeah, I was into a lot of, much to my mother's chagrin, when I was growing up, I got into a lot of different things for a while. I was into photography, I was into this. I was obviously never a sports guy, per se.
But you were into cars.
But, well, what happened was, I started getting into cars. My aunt had my aunt and uncle were the original owners of a 67 GTO.
A 67 GTO. Original owners.
Original owners.
Oh
they
my
bought
gosh.
the car brand
Stick?
new.
Is
No,
it,
automatic.
It's an automatic, and that was, it wouldn't have had tri-power, that was less.
No, there was a 400, it would have been a 400 HO, single
oh my
Rochester.
Gosh, it's the best body style.
Yeah, oh, I love it.
Yeah.
They had that car from brand new, and my aunt literally drove that car every day in New York, which is kind of the problem, up until like 2002.
Wow.
Okay. But my first memory was, as I was growing up, was seeing that car come to family events. Okay, and
I bet
that just lit the fire.
It just rumbled in.
Oh yeah, and especially once I started to drive, and my aunt could see that in me, and she, you want to drive it?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
please
I'll take it. And she would give me the keys, and I would get to drive the thing around my neighborhood. Who was cooler than a 16-year-old kid just getting his license, cruising around town in a 67 GTO convertible?
Oh my God, it's a convertible.
It's convertible.
Oh yeah. Oh, man.
That's what really lit my fire. And then I was lucky enough to really have a good group of friends that really helped bring me along. A good buddy of mine, him and his dad had a couple of race cars and of course street cars, that kind of thing. Yeah. They kind of helped move me along and got me into drag racing. I mean, when I was a kid, we did a lot of drag racing and a lot of
But you can't really talk about that much.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Deer Park in a town on Long Island, in a town called Deer Park, and that was a very, very heavy car area. Yeah. The main avenue running through the town was Route 231, Deer Park Avenue. That was known for cruising. It was actually in CarCraft, I think.
As one of those places?
As one of those top 10 cruising places or top cruising places in the nation.
That's what we did, man.
Yeah,
that was,
So of course it was like, this is it. We're on the map now. So of course that nurtured it even more.
So you worked for Fatman's. You started working there when?
2006.
Okay, so you've been there a long time, and then just how many years ago, just a couple of years ago, you became the owner, right?
Yes, about it's almost 3 years now.
Okay, so what kind of a transition is that from, you're the owner now, you're the big fish, I mean, you're the guy. A little tough? Is that an understatement? Do I need to get your wife in here?
Yeah, exactly. Just a little. Big transition. Especially coming in and trying to fill the shoes of such a great person.
Yeah. Oh, Brent.
Big
Brent
shoes
is,
to fill
oh my gosh.
with having to kind of take over and kind of run things after Brent founding it and doing so much with it over these years. My best analogy I could tell people was, it's like, sometimes to do anything new, you kind of dip your feet in the water. Yeah. Yeah, I jumped into the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, you did did the cannonball right into the middle of it.
Exactly.
Now, does Brent come by from time to time?
All the time. We would just we see each other all the time. I was just basically by him 2 days ago. Yeah. I hung out with him at the house and.
Is he still into the World War II airplanes and stuff?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's actually. This is the nice thing for him. This is what made this so nice, was that he's still a big part of the business. I mean, he's not in the daily stuff. Sure. That kind of thing, but. He's still in the buildings at least once, twice a week.
He's such a sharp guy, too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just.
The development that we're in is still his. Yeah. He's got the end building where the P40 is, so he's spending a lot of time down there. He's got it skinned. And this is what him and I talked about when we talked about doing this transition. Was like, look, I said, you've been doing this 30+ years. Yeah. You've been killing yourself for 30 years to keep this place going and doing what needs to be done. I said, it's time for you to relax. Yeah. You deserve this. You missed a lot of your life outside of this, your
Yeah.
personal life. I said, now it's your turn to sit back, enjoy yourself. Come and go
Yes.
as you please, and do what you want to do.
Yes.
Finish those projects and have some fun.
And the next time you talk to him, tell him that he needs to call his good friend Stacey to let him go for a ride in the P40.
If you have it. Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if it's one of those things where he's going to, finish it and restore it, but I don't think he feels at this point like it's ever going to be in a flying condition per se.
Okay, so it's going to be a static deal?
Yeah, I think so. It depends on how far he gets. I think he's got the Allison engine kind of redone.
Okay.
Like I say, he's reskinning it now. It's come pretty far along. I just don't get down there enough time to see it, which is kind of cool because there are times when I do get to go down there, and it's like, oh man, look what you've done.
Yeah.
This is
it's starting to look like an airplane.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. When you're starting to see that skin come on, it's really cool. I mean, I remember a few years back, he was funny. We were at work, and he's like, listen, I need you to do me a favor. Can you come to my house next week and give me a hand on the plane?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you need? He's like, well, you've got small hands.
Yeah.
He said, and the way those rivets are designed on those planes, you're using a rivet.
He made you buck the rivets.
A backer.
Yeah, you had to buck them. Yeah.
You've been there.
Oh my
gosh. You
gosh.
need somebody to hold the backer as you pop the rivet in.
Oh yeah.
He's like, you can fit your hands inside the wings and do that for me while I get the rivets in. I'm
That's
like,
a true car guy right there.
okay, no problem. So here I am with him. We're in his shop behind the house, and we're popping rivets into this wing. So forever, every time I see one of those wings, I'm like, I remember that deal.
Yeah.
But
can you imagine the people that built those things?
It's
bucking
amazing.
every one of those rivets?
Yes, it's amazing. You talk about an era of craftsmanship.
Yeah.
And you think about the fact that these were men and women.
Oh yeah, a lot of it was women. Yeah.
Yeah. Doing this in a situation of war.
Yeah.
They know there's lives on the line on the job they're doing, and how quickly they can get these planes out, and how well they can get them built.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
We did a story a few years ago on the Memphis Belle, when I was doing Sergeant Rock, and we went down where they were restoring it, and a lot of times those women on the assembly line would leave notes.
Yep.
And so they knew that when the guys pulled off a panel, like one of the service guys, there would be a note from one of the rivet ladies.
No kidding. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, they'd little notes in there, and so the guys would find them. They're over there in Europe, and they pull this off at one of those moments, and here's somebody that built the airplane saying, hey, we're thinking of you, you're in our prayers or whatever.
An inspiration.
Huge for these guys.
Well, people don't realize that, that 8th Air Force, you want to talk
and these
about
guys are
losses.
finding this when they're restoring
when they're restoring it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm a big World War II history buff.
Oh yes.
I'm very much into that greatest generation and our, the world history around that time.
Have you ever been to Normandy?
Not yet. It's coming.
You have to.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely do. It's on the bucket list.
It's really something that every American citizen should go and experience, but especially if you're into the history at all.
Oh yeah.
It is a sobering experience. It's really amazing.
These are the men that made our country what it was.
Oh yeah.
People don't forget that sometimes. Like what the sacrifices these men made on those two theaters of war.
Oh my gosh.
And then to come back.
Yeah.
They were fearless.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm going to be worried about my business or where I'm going to sleep or whatever. 6 months ago I was getting shot at in a foxhole by somebody wanting to kill me at every second.
Listen, man.
Yeah, this is not a big deal.
And you stand on those beaches and you see what those guys did, what they were up against. The pillboxes are still there. The crossfire.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Well, I'm Civil War buff also, and I can remember going to Gettysburg.
Yeah.
And walking the fields of Gettysburg, and when you look at when you actually, you can read in the books all you want.
Yeah.
Okay, but when you get onto one of those fields and you see the sheer scope of what those men were going through, you think of Pickett's charge. And it's like, these men in July, in heavy wool coats, know nothing other than a heavy wool coat, are walking across a field this large while getting shot at, and they're still marching.
Yeah.
You can't even think about the amount of bravery that took.
If you think about that now, and you're exactly right, you just go walk across that field right now, you'll have so many ticks on you at the
yeah, right. It's just
and copperheads and all this other stuff, let alone being shot at.
Yeah. My wife told you the story. It was hilarious. We did that for our honeymoon. We're married 31 years almost now.
Oh, congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Our honeymoon, we spent the first week at Disney World.
Yeah.
And then the second week, this is the two car guys, and my wife, God love her, this is why I married, many reasons I married her was the way she was into cars. Our second week of our honeymoon, we went to Super Chevy Sunday.
Yeah, okay.
Which we used to go to every year at Maple Grove Raceway. And it was like, you know what? We're pretty close to the battlefield. We're going to go down to the battlefield.
Yeah.
So she'll tell you the story. We're at Gettysburg Battlefield in the car, and you know they've got that set up so you can pretty much drive around, and they've got all the markers where who was what and where. It's July. I don't care.
You don't care now.
I'm in history. She's like, you know, she got out a couple places with me, and then finally she hit a point. She's like, "Go ahead, you go do this. I'll sit in the car."
Yeah.
She's like, "I'll drive. You tell me when to stop."
I've seen it enough. Yeah.
So my poor wife first was still on her honeymoon, and she's like, "Are we done yet?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry." I'm like, "I don't know when I'll get to come back to this.
Yeah.
I need to take this all in."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
but,
I was
know,
like that at Normandy. It's that whole area.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so tight.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we don't realize is this sheer span. You know, this is one of the things we talk about. This country is huge.
Yeah.
When you compare it to Europe as a whole, this country is gigantic. So it's a very, very close-knit thing. Like you say, okay, Normandy is not far from, you know, okay, it's in France. It's not far from Belgium or a lot of the other countries, you know.
And it was right in the backyard for a lot of these guys, too. I know that when we were doing the Memphis Belle thing, they would let tourists come in and look at the bell, and you could actually buck some of the rivets as they were doing the restoration. It was a really cool deal. And there was a couple there, young couple. They were in their like mid-20s, and the guy was crying. I mean, visibly crying there. And I thought, okay, there's something odd going on here. He was from England, and so you know we were there and we started to interview him a little bit. And says, okay, so what's the connection here? He goes, you don't understand. These are in the fields that I grew up in. He said, I grew up playing in the hulls of burned up B-17s and B-25s and that kind of stuff. Wow. And they're still there.
Oh, yeah.
And when you go over there, there's old tank hulls and that kind of stuff. It was right in their backyard. Yeah. That's a whole different thing.
Well, yeah, like I said, the 8th Air Force, they had bases all over England. Yeah. So there was always contact with those guys, I'm sure. Yeah. You know.
A successful automotive project takes planning and organization, but instead of using an old tablet or notebook, there's the Gears Deluxe Project Planning Book. This was designed to help you lay out a project, the parts, the tools, costs, and keep it organized with colored tabs, a pouch for receipts, and even a place to attach photos. If you decide to sell the vehicle, it serves as a complete history of what's been done. If you have a project or plan on starting one, the Gears Project Planning Book is the best way to lay it out and make it happen.
When you look at the history of hot rodding and stuff, how important do you think that is that we continue to bring new hot rodders in, young or old, and that we keep the history going? Because like in the music industry, that's important.
It is.
Because people are still being influenced by Aretha Franklin, they're still being influenced by Chuck Berry, they're still being influenced by Muddy Waters and stuff.
And I definitely feel the same way about this industry.
Yeah.
This is an industry that's rich in a lot of history. You know, when you talk about, like I say, those initial pioneers, the Wally Parks, you know, the drag racers that helped get us into this, the Barris brothers, all of these people that, you know, really started this. Yeah. You know, and then you get into the next generations, and especially like, let's face it, when the Barrises and Wally Parks and those guys were starting to do this, there wasn't a lot available.
No, everything had to be handmade.
Exactly. They had to hand make it, or they had to find a way of making something else fit. Yeah. That next generation of pioneers are what set us up for where we are now, whether it be at Fatman Fabrications or any of the other manufacturers out there. They realized, like, we could fill a need here. We could make this easier. We could expand this industry to a level where you don't have to be a machinist or an auto mechanic or somebody like that to do this. You can do it where, okay, I'm a guy who loves cars. I've got a regular job, but I love my cars, and I want to be able to build them. Well, this is what these guys set that wheel rolling, and look at what it's become. Yeah. You know, the Vic Edelbrock Juniors and Seniors that built all this, you know, we're reaping those benefits, and you don't want to forget that.
It's so easy to build a car now too, whereas before, like we were talking about before, you used to have to go down and get a Volare front end or a Nova, and even the Crown Vic stuff that's around. I see people putting Crown Vic stuff in. It's like there's such a better option out there now than doing the junkyard junk, because the aftermarket has come so far. And I see, you guys have stepped into doing complete frames, which now has become the big thing. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of guys that are like, well, you know, I'd rather build it all myself. And you can still. But man, getting a replacement frame or something, what do you think about that? Where do you think that's going?
Well, it's like I say, it's based on that need. Yeah, there are still guys out there that can, you know, yeah, I'd rather build this all myself. And I, you know.
I'm going to dig my own ore. I'm going to make my own metal.
Great,
I'm gonna
exactly. Yeah,
and you can do that.
More power to you. You know, if you have that ability, that's great.
Yeah.
What this end of the spectrum allows is those people who may have that enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Okay. But they may not have that ability.
Yes.
And they may not have that time.
Or the time, yes.
Exactly.
The time.
So,
or the tools.
Exactly. You know, yeah, this is not something you're going to be able to really, a lot of this stuff is not something you can really build in your backyard.
No.
You know, unless you've got a machine shop happily sitting there and a few welders and, you know, sheet metal brakes and whatnot.
What do you think about what's going on at the auctions, some of the big prices of these cars? Where do you think that's going? What's your take on that?
My take of that is, you know, people look at those numbers like, oh my God, I can't believe how much money that guy got for that car.
Yeah.
My take?
Yeah.
I sit and I look at that car and I go, that guy who just sold that car lost his shirt.
But see, you're a builder. You know what it takes to build those cars.
And this is the thing. This is what a lot of people don't understand. A basic layman doesn't understand. It's like, oh my God, I got $150,000 for that, you know, for that GTO.
Yeah.
Okay, that level of restoration, if he didn't do it himself and he had to pay for it, that level of restoration was $250,000.
Absolutely.
You know, and they're like, what? I do this with my friends. We'd be sitting there watching Barrett Jackson. Love watching Barrett Jackson. It's the coolest thing ever. Okay, would love to go there one day.
Yeah.
But we'd say, and they'd be in awe of what these cars were going for. Oh my God, I can't believe how much this one went for. I'm like, guys, I said, do you realize? I said, if the guy who owned that car, if he had to pay somebody to do that,
and most of them do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Most of them, I'm like, he's got double into it.
Those guys, anybody that has a Riddler car and is selling it, they're losing their shirt.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're losing millions.
Well, it's the running joke. You know, anybody tell you, if you got into the automotive, into this industry to make millions,
yeah, forget it.
You're sadly disappointed.
No.
You know, this is not what this is about. And this is what makes this industry to me so cool is that, yeah, you know, you can make money at this, whatever, but it's not about the money. For most of us companies.
For the real car people.
Exactly. It's not about the money. It's about the passion.
Yeah.
You know.
You know, we take a perfectly good car and tear it apart and make it faster, louder, crazier, whatever.
Exactly.
Because we love it.
Yes.
You know, and that's, I tell people, because there's a lot of guys that get into it and they're like, well, I got to make my money out of it. It's like, okay, that's a used car salesman mentality.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if that's how you're going to do it, then you're into it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. To me, my general rule of thumb in any of that kind of stuff is like, okay, if you sold your vehicle after doing all the work and everything else, and you were able to make enough to pay for the parts you put into it, you're doing good.
Yeah. You know? And you get enjoyment out of it, and you have something that has some value when you're
and
done.
that's, to me, the attitude of it is that should be the general. It's like, okay, look, if I can eventually pay for the parts that I put into it, and I've gotten 4, 5, 10 years worth of enjoyment out of it, well, there was your payment. There was your profit, was the enjoyment you had in
Absolutely.
it. In some ways, those auctions, that's a little lost on people that they don't realize, like, this is work. This doesn't happen overnight. You know, you're not going to build something in necessarily a shorter a time without a huge amount of prep. You know, the frames, like I say, we're going back to, like I say, frames or suspensions. This has made a lot of lives easier, and this is one of the reasons why the frame side of this whole industry has become so popular, because for people that may not have that ability, this allows them to get a firm base on a vehicle.
Oh my God!
You know, let's face it. You know, it comes down to so many aspects of, okay, comfort, stability, safety.
And it's the kind of stuff that 90% of your people cannot do.
No, exactly.
They don't know how to do the frame stuff. They're not a good welder, or they don't understand geometry at all.
Well, and that's the thing. This is one of the things that kind of we spend a lot of time on with customers. A lot of this industry, I feel, is becoming about education.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You know, I feel sets us and maybe some other companies apart is that idea to not only be able to sell the product, but to be able to tech the product, and even more so now, to be able to help them build their dream. I spend a lot of time on calls, you know, with a frame.
Yeah.
This is not something simple and easy you sell to somebody out of a catalog, okay? As far as I'm concerned. I mean, somebody wants to do that, they want to buy one out of a catalog, whatever, go right ahead. This is something that should be spent time on.
Oh,
this
you
is
have to.
Major
Absolutely.
investment in what you're doing. You don't want to build something based on, well, that looked really good, so I wanted that, and that looks cool, so I want that. Now, okay, so now you've got a totally wrong combination of stuff that's not going to work together.
Yeah.
You know, perfect example for you, musician. You know,
Yeah.
you get the greatest guitar in the world.
Yeah.
Until that's tuned correctly,
exactly.
it doesn't sound right.
Yeah, and
That's
you got to put it with the right instruments and everything.
Okay.
No, you're exactly right.
You know, that's one of the things we used
It's
to
just
say.
like paint. You can take laying out a paint job or doing an interior, building a motor, anything like that. One wrong ingredient, and it's all a mess.
Exactly. There really is no best we can build.
Yeah.
Let's concentrate on building something that's going to work for what you want to do with the vehicle.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, you can't get that everywhere. This is one of the things I feel like separates
Exactly.
us.
That's
like,
and
I've had guys. I've been on the phone with some customers for 40 minutes an hour on a frame because it's and I'll get guys and they're very. I'm really sorry I'm taking a lot of your time. I'm like, look, don't worry about it. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
This is a huge investment. You're not talking like you're going to spend a couple of $1,000s on a frame. You're going to be, spending a good amount of money.
Yeah.
I, as the owner, want
Yeah.
to make sure that when you get that product, and my guys, the same thing on doing the sales, they want to make sure that when you get that product and you get it installed and do whatever you got to do, you're going to be happy with that product. And you're going to know that there's a company with a history and an ability to walk you through the process. And then when the time comes, hey, what do I need to do? What's your suggestion of this? And I get that a lot. I tell customers, I'm like, look, you bought a frame from us. That doesn't mean a relationship is over.
Yeah.
It's just starting.
And that is why you're Fatman Fabrications.
I believe so.
That's
I
awesome.
believe that's one of the things that separates us out from a lot of other companies is that service, that personal touch, and that knowledge base.
All right, that's our show for today, which means you need to get out there and start working on something. Spend some time turning wrenches. You'll love it. Also, make sure to check out our website, staceydavid.com. We got all kinds of new products, some great stuff there you're going to love. Also, make sure you check out our social media. That's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all at Official Stacey David. Our social media is where you're going to find all the bonus content, the giveaways, the contests, the trivia. We even have extra viewer projects that we show everybody to focus on what you're working on. YouTube is where you're going to be able to find all of our episodes of Gears, past, present, and future. I know a lot of you guys ask about that. That's where you can see them. All right, that's all we got. We'll see you next time.